you know, I was able to see that all the trees are like, there's energy inside all the trees and all the plants flowing through the inside of them. There's like rivers of energy, and that's where, and the codes were in there too. And I remember everything was alive, like everything was, and the whole forest was communicating with each other, with all the other, through the roots, with all the trees.
Okay, so it's recording. And so we are going to get to the most important dimension, the one that we currently are in this avatar, and that is the third dimension. So can you give us some highlights of the third dimension, what it's all about?
Yeah. So again, this is again another realm of experience. And you know, I think that's something that I like to make sure I like I like to share to kind of like with the world, as far as like, it doesn't mean that one is better than the other. You know, there's no like, oh, I'm in this dimension or you're in that dimension or I'm a higher dimension than you. Or I think that was gonna, it's not about that, you know, it's just see it more like an experience, an opportunity for experiences. So I mean, I was saying kind of like levels, but you know, we can like just put it like in a circle. Imagine like a circle, like a pie, and each one of them is just an experience. You know, like each pie slice of a pie, it's just a different realm, a different experience. One is not better than the other one. It's just different, you know, different experience. So I just want to make sure that it comes across for everybody. But yeah, I mean, then there's other experience, right? That the soul decides, you know, maybe after, I mean, you know, again, the experience, you know, you can experience yourself in the second realm or dimension for however long you want, you know. But again, it comes to a point where like, okay, I already experienced myself. That's everything, and you know, here I am, a butterfly, and that's okay. That's, I think I did enough. Like I'm just kind of ready for a different experience. Not, you know, so not that it's better or you know, it's just a different experience. So then I think then that's where we come in to this, having this human experience, and again, as we go on this journey of the human experience, it's going through this journey of life lessons and reincarnation, you know, so that we go through different lifetimes and experiences and evolution of the soul that, like I mentioned before, I think it's just, we go to this game of dualism or experience of, you know, black and white, evil and good, and you know, and just this whole experience of trying to have that experience of being a human being, having bad experiences, good experiences, having the karma come in to play, you know, you're doing bad actions, they're coming back to you in other lifetimes. So it's just being able to go through this life experience of emotions and experiences that we go through in order to just to have that experience just for the fun of it. You know, all of this is for the fun, like more or less this, all this experience, all these realms. I know it's kind of hard to.
I want to say somebody's listening to that saying, "What?" Like they having the worst time ever in life, and they're like, "This is not fun." Like what are you talking about?
I know, right? I think that's, yeah, that's kind of like, you know, because I remember when I was in that space where I became kind of like, or in the afterlife, or with my higher self, or and seeing all these other, these holograms, all these other lifetimes. You know, it was just for the experience, right? Because in that space where there's not none of these experiences, then it's, I mean, it's not that it's boring, but it's like, you know what I'm saying? You don't have that division of experiences of duality and you know, suffering or challenges in life, you know. So you don't have that, right? Because you're one with your higher self, that it's in the higher realms. So being able to take this avatar, and again, it's just a video game, you know, that's, but the
Mm.
game that people don't know until you start having these experiences. And now through technology, people are sharing this, you know, information just to people like, oh yeah, this is all a dream. This is all an illusion. It's all a video game. It's all a program. Try not to
Yeah.
take it too seriously, right? With the experiences. So try to learn, you know, because you understand everything's for learning.
Maybe that will help some people who are really going through a very troubling or traumatizing life this time around, is to kind of just imagine, because a lot of things are just mental constructs. And I learned that growing up, like how to like not go crazy, like how to deal with really extreme situations. So maybe just have the mental construct where you just think of like in this other realm, in the real realm, we are like love and happiness and joy. And like after a while, that kind of got boring, you know? And so it's kind
Yeah.
of like this is that way to, like you said, play a video game or go immerse yourself in a movie so that you can experience something that you're not, you know. And if you can do that, and maybe even have the challenge, 'cause it's not like to say suffer in silence, like enjoy it, suffer and enjoy it. No, like if you're really not enjoying this life and you're getting to a point where you're like, I can't do this anymore, then maybe start, maybe that should be, if you see it as a video game, then take it as a challenge. How can I make my life better? How can I make my life happier? How can I make my life freer? Like take it as like, okay, I'm going to level up, you know? And that way you don't have to stay in whatever you're stuck in right now. You don't, you know? Um, so a question that popped up is, and I know we have to move kind of, not to say quickly, but I don't want to ask every nuance of every question because I have a lot of questions, as you can see. But in regards to the dimensions, are they, you're saying that they're like, it's like a pie chart, so it's not like it's levels, but just like parallel lives, are they being experienced simultaneously, or are they in a procession, like in order?
I mean, I feel like there is kind of like this level of it's kind of like I've seen it that is like levels of evolution. Yeah, like kind of like grades, like yeah, kindergarten and elementary. I've seen it that way. But once you're as kind of like, well, again, I'm just saying when you're at the top, just glimpses of it, right? I don't really know what it is, but once I've seen it, like once you start going at the top, for a second that I went, just being able to see that it's all one anyway, so then you don't see it
Mm,
from the lower dimensions, lower realms. You kind of like need to have that construct of,
yeah.
okay, yeah, we keep ascending, and that's why I've been kind of explaining it that way, like, okay, we keep ascending, and then, like I was saying, the algorithm knows when a soul reaches a certain level, kind of picks it up, takes it to the ascends to the next realm. That's why we have the word ascension, right? You're
Hmm.
ascending, you're going up, you're ascending in consciousness, you start seeing your parallel lives. It's ascension, it's going up. So it's just for us to understand that concept of evolution, and then you can compare, right? We were at this level before, and now I'm here, like I achieved, or I've accomplished whatever it is, like in your life, right? So then so you can compare this comparison, that this contrast that we're able to compare. So in that sense, it's kind of necessary in this lower realms. But I think once you start going up higher, then I came to understand it was just one anyway. Like that's why I came to see like just in a circle or bubble,
Hmm.
and it was just different fractions of itself, each of the dimensions. So then at that point, is like there's no lower or higher, it's all one. It just experiences. You
Hmm.
see what I'm saying? More than anything, that so in that sense, that once you start going up higher, it's just you understand that it was just part of experiences, and it doesn't mean the one is better than the other. It's just different. It's
Hmm.
like being a parent or being a child, or being a teen. It just experiences. It doesn't mean that one is better than the other. It's like, oh, now
Yeah.
I'm mature, I'm better than a kid, or the kid, I'm better. It's like there's no, you can't compare it really. It's just a different experience. So
Yeah.
I would just probably say that that's kind of like how really in the higher realms, you understand it's just there is no higher or lower. It's just
Yeah.
experiences. But for us in the lower realms, we kind of need that kind of progress
Now,
to
it
understand it.
it sounds like a very individual thing, like when you're going from one dimension to the other. It's about your own progress, like what your own, like you're taking your own tests and, um, but right now we're in a time where everybody's talking about the shift from, and it depends on who you're listening to. Some people say it's a shift from 3D to 5D. When I first heard that, I'm like, how are we skipping 4? I've heard people explain why, but I didn't understand that. And then you have some people who say, no, it's 3 to 4. Like 4 is not, just hasn't disappeared. But is it in that, assuming that you believe that the earth itself is shifting or something like that, is that clearly it's not well, I can't say clearly. Is it an individual thing? Because some people also say that, oh no, some people are already in 5D, they just don't know it. So is it an individual thing? Is it an earth thing? Has Gaia, the spirit of this planet herself, is it that she's moving from one dimension to the other? Or is it a collective human thing? And this is in your opinion. Like what do you think they mean by the shift? What is shifting?
Yeah, I think the individual and the collective. So we're all shifting. Definitely, it's both. So we're like and so yeah, individual people like they're having the experiences that they're shifting, right? And then the collective as well. I mean, the collective's gone slower, of course, but I mean, at the end, like I mentioned before in one of your podcasts, is that as we are entering as a collective, entering the fourth dimension, as we're ascending as a collective. Because imagine the collective just put that as a one being, right? So that's the collective. As we're ascending as a collective into the fourth dimension. The fourth dimension is all like in that realm is transparency and integrity. So that's why as we are shifting barely entering that fourth dimension as a collective, that's why things are about to collapse, with the systems. And
Mm,
just because it's not based on integrity, and then it's not based on honesty, still based on anger and greed and division of my religion, my political
mm,
stand, my whatever ethnicity, whatever it is. That's
yeah.
why it's about to collapse. That's the whole system is because as we're entering the collective as a fourth dimension, that cannot exist, right? So that's why it needs to be clean, whole system, all the reveal, with all the the truth about it's about to come out with all the governments and all this stuff.
Mm,
And then that's when, okay, let's start a new system that it's going to be based on integrity and transparency. So yeah,
mm.
so as the collective and as an individual, we're kind of like both ascending. So
Wow. So I'm going to move to the next one, but just something that came to my mind as you were saying this is like, I'm wondering if, we're cleansing right now and preparing to go into a space where it's only honesty, integrity, all those great things, then maybe that's why, and not to say, I mean, because I can't look at the whole globe and know exactly what's happening everywhere, but maybe there could be a point where there's a lot of things, like besides just crumbling, but coming to light, like a lot more, meaning that a lot more strife, a lot more, not things that we don't want to deal with, but they have to come to the forefront, kind of like when people are detoxing, you have all this kind of stuff coming out, you're like, oh, but if you can't be clean if it's not removed. So
exactly, even the body needs to take this, right? Like
yeah,
it get cleansed. You know what I'm saying? So it's the same thing. That's
yeah,
where we're going through this right now, and that's why you see in politics, right? So this
yeah,
division of parties and this conflict. It's just the system itself eating itself up because it hasn't been based on integrity. So that's why there's this collision or collapse between parties and like the way I've seen it in the near like the next 10 years approximately, I don't know, it'll be known in history as the age of trials.
oh
So the next 10
wow,
years it'll be like there'll be a lot of trials. Like Trump is just the beginning.
oh
Like
god,
there'll be a lot of trials, and because governments, there hasn't been based on integrity. So all the politicians and corporations and whatever bank, oh, whatever it is. I mean, at the end it's just it'll be because it needs to be cleansed, right? The whole thing, and
yeah,
then at the end it'll be like the world would know, like, oh my God, what kind of, this is really what's going on. Just, yeah, I
yeah,
mean, it's not that it's evil. I don't want people to think like, oh, it's not that it's evil. It was, I mean, everything was, there's been pros too. Okay, there's been all this corruption, but at the same time, we are where we are today, right? All this technology and everything was because
mm,
kind of like it was driven by maybe that greed or whatever it was. But then we have all this technology, there's airplanes, internet, so it's kind of like I don't
yeah,
see. I try to help tell people try not to see it as negative. It's not negative. It's just it's been part of the evolution, and now it's just going to be shifting right to where then as far as like once the kind of like this system kind of like is revealed, like the negatives in a way that like not that things being transparent or clear, then then we'll transfer into a system that'll be transparent and for the collective and to just no more poverty and instead of putting all this money in wars and everything's going on. I think like this is the last thing of like people as a collective people are usually you can see like posts on Facebook, right? People are like
yeah,
I think
I
I'm
noticed.
my girlfriend Linda, she showed me a post like this little kid from an Israel kid and a Palestinian kid like holding each other's hands.
Oh,
Like what I'm saying, like just,
mm,
if you put two children for two religions, just I don't
yeah,
know the difference. It's only us the adults that put that division
yeah,
in them. But we're gonna get to that point where there is gonna be no more wars, no more divisions, and it'll be all for to create a better world. So
good, good, good.
so yeah, so that's why I tell people, nah, don't worry. I mean, as far as what's going on in the collective, it's gonna be a cleansing time, and then after that it'll be like I said before too, like I see many women young leaders like yourself, man. You might become a president.
I don't know if I want that job, but okay. Unless it
I'll make sure I'll
changes
vote for you.
drastically. Unless it changes drastically, I don't want that job. but okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but someone like you,
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be you, but someone like you to saying, like, you know what I'm saying? So like enough of these old leaders that has been about power and all this stuff, there'll be someone like you, with a
Yeah.
heart, with your heart, kind of heart, you're like you that want to change the world for the better, so then
Mm.
they'll create new institutions that will be about bringing the world together, like no more nuclear weapons, no more wars, no more necessary to build weapons anymore. Like let's just help each other, let's
Yeah.
create systems and help all there's no need for poverty in the planet. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
enough resources and money instead of putting it all in nuclear
Yeah. I
weapons
mean,
or
oh my God,
right.
really? Yes.
You kidding me?
Oh God. I
Exactly.
mean, I can go on like 20 tangents. I know I don't want to, but I'm just gonna just like quickly, quickly say that I just feel like if everybody, and not to say that as bad as, as much as I've gone through in my life, I can say that I've never been in a war, per se. So thank goodness for that. But just imagine if everybody could just taste just a few minutes of that from the point of being the victim or the underdog. If you really saw how ugly it is, we'd all be standing up and saying, no more. Let's just chill. Let's just be at peace, please. Let's love each other. There's no reason for this at all, you know? So, but yeah, so thank you for that. I mean, I think that gives everybody a good idea, and I'm actually excited to go into the next dimension because I'm confused. I don't know, so I'm going to be learning a lot right now because, like I said, a lot of people talk about 3D to 4D to 5, and sometimes they switch 4D, and then like I've heard a lot. Like, I do a lot of my own, do a lot of research, so I've heard some weird things about the fourth dimension. And I wanted to see if you agree with these or if you have another take on it. But some people literally say that it really is a space. Oh goodness. It's a space that's almost like the astral realm. They almost make it to some people have mentioned that it's kind of what when people go astral traveling, like that is what the fourth dimension is. That is not a physical realm, and that there's a lot of scare. And I know you don't because you've gone to a level where you don't see black and white and dark and light and stuff. I'm still in that whole, light versus dark. I'm very much in a duality. So I try to stay away from the dark, the darkness, whatever. But I've heard that there's a lot of potentially scary things there because our power of creating thought forms, like our thought becoming reality, manifesting, is big there. And if people don't know how to control their thoughts, and God knows if you think about what you think in a day, you realize, wow, my thoughts are all over the place, So
Yeah.
if you're not able to focus and you're not a master at that, just imagine if you had the power just today, like the people who are listening, just today, all the thoughts that you had to create them, like they actually be started manifesting into stuff instantly. You'd be running and running away. If you're a very negative person, you'd be running out, like just trying to get away from everything. So so anyway, so that's my understanding of the fourth dimension. But tell us what it actually is. Like, what is the fourth dimension?
I mean, like I say, I don't know much. I just from a little bit that I've experienced. I'm not no expert, but yeah, definitely share my experience, my perspective. But yeah, so for me, the way I came to understand it, it's like when I all the people and when I have my NDE and all the people that have NDEs and like so when the people that see the light, for me, that's the portal to the fourth dimension. You see what I'm saying? So for me, the fourth dimension basically it's the next level of consciousness of awareness where we time collapses, there's no time, and where you start becoming aware. It's like coming up to the surface of so you're like here in the simulation in this lifetime, and you're coming in that simulation. That's also the out of body experiences are in the fourth dimension. That's the astral travels, So it's coming out of your simulation, your bubble, your body coming out, and then all of a sudden being aware, like, oh my God, like what's going on? Then you can start also traveling to different places, on Earth or planets or the universe. And then you can start connecting to, for me, the fourth dimension is, coming connected to your higher self, which is a kind of like that fourth dimension. And then that's also for me, that's kind of heaven. Like, so the way I like to, I mean, I came to understand, have come to understand, all the people that are having NDEs and they say, yeah, I went to heaven and, I saw the light, which was God. And then I saw Jesus or whoever, and then or, like me, I saw the council of light and I saw my life review and I saw their cashier records. And so, all this, all these things. And then for me, that where is that? Okay, that's the fourth and fifth dimension for me. So that's like the heaven is kind of like the fourth. I put them on their fourth, fifth dimension together. Now I'll explain the fourth and then the fifth. So, but again, for me, that's just realms. So like when people are, I just like to share, make sure like when people are saying, "Oh yeah, I went to heaven and I went to heaven," you just went to that realm, to the fourth and fifth realm. But then there's even higher realms, or levels or experiences as well. So that's something that that I think is just kind of fascinating. That there's even that's not even it. Like heaven, like I went there to heaven, but there's even higher levels besides those fourth and fifth dimension. And again, it's just for the experience. It's not that one levels are better than the other ones, but I think that's something that I like to share that I came to understand. Like, oh my God, it's not living like going to, having this experience is going to heaven. It's not like heaven. That's like the ultimate. There's even higher levels than heaven or fourth and fifth dimension. But for me, the fourth dimension basically is starting to become one with your higher self and starting to see your parallel lives, all your multidimensionality, which are all these fractions of us that are all these other lifetimes that are happening at the same time. So I think the fourth dimension for me, that's where the concept of time comes in. But actually time doesn't exist. And then that's where you start connecting to your other lifetimes. You see what I'm saying? So that's kind of like the way I've come to understand that our starting to understand our multidimensionality. So that's the fourth dimension. Like if you ask me what's the fourth dimension, it's the realm of understanding ourselves as multidimensional beings. So that level of consciousness of awareness that we start opening our eyes, right? That you're more than just one body, you're actually many, many, many bodies across time and space, having all these experiences. And so that's kind of like that part. And so then time and space collapses. Again, that's where all the experience people that are having NDEs and out of body experiences, that's kind of like where people are having access to the fourth dimension and to our parallel lives. And then that's when you start having some different, then you start having access to your other lifetimes. So then that's when you kind of start having the experiences, where you can start quantum jumping into those other lifetimes, right? And like then you start having access to some of those other lifetimes. And like I mentioned before, you kind of quantum jump or quantum jump particles or just astral travel your consciousness into another lifetime, and then you start having access to those other lifetimes. And then also you start having then this not abilities but experiences where you can start having out of body experiences, and so that's in the fourth dimension, and so that's kind of like the kind of experience you can start having. And then I've also was able to have some like, really cool experiences. Other experiences that I had that I feel is part of the fourth dimension was like I was able to see like the grids. There's like different grids all over the planet, and there's like all these energy grids. And then I saw like centers, kind of like the chakras of Earth, but there's all these grids of the planet that are like around the planet, and they're just like energy that kind of connects the whole planet and all souls. And then I was able also to see and then I was able to have a really cool experience. Again, these are just experiences, but we were walking at the beach on the beach here in San Diego, and then all of a sudden I started feeling all the earth and everything, and then I somehow out of my heart, an energy came out of my heart, and like sonar energy, and I felt all the fish and all the animals in the water and all the birds. Like I connected to everything through sonar energy that came out of my heart, which I thought it was really cool. It was really cool. And then,
I'm
but I would just say for the fourth dimension, more than anything, it's start becoming aware of our multidimensionality, and then start slowly having access to those other lifetimes. So, and then start traveling to those other lifetimes. Because once I been able to go to my higher self, I have been able to want to jump or travel to some of those lifetimes. So I remember going into Scandinavia. I went into one because the way I saw my lifetimes, they were like in bubbles all around me with my higher self. And then I traveled to a couple different ones. So I went into one of them, and I was like a Viking in Scandinavia. And then I went into another one where I was in Greece, and I was like, building democracy. I mean, it's fascinating going into the lifetimes because you travel like in a wormhole, And then you get there, and then your cousin gets there, and then all I see this guy, this Greek guy, like in the Parthenon, talking about like, man, let's build democracy, let's bring the utopia. And then I go inside that body of that guy, and I'm like, oh my God, that's here I am building democracy. That's a great. And then so I had many lifetimes like that where so it's just like from as far as like being in Egypt, being building the pyramids and being a Roman legionnaire. I mean, being a slave and being a pioneer, being a soldier. A couple different. I mean, I've only seen a few. I saw that there was like thousands of them, but I haven't seen them all. Like I'm not there yet either. Like it's like baby spoons, like I said.
Yeah, thousands. And like you're not the first person to say they've had thousands of lives. And I mean,
Yeah.
I sometimes feel so tired. I'm like, I would be surprised if I get to the other side and they're like, oh no, you're a new soul. This is your first life. We don't know why you're so tired. But I mean, who knows? But I just really feel like, I mean, I sometimes feel like I can feel it, like just how exhausting it's all been, you know? Um,
Yeah.
but I'm glad you mentioned now you said sonar. You felt sonar energy leaving your heart chakra.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt, and
So
it
like a
just
frequency, kind of a
a
sound
frequency
frequency.
came out of my heart, and then
Wow.
that frequency, I was able to. All of a sudden, I looked because I was walking by the beach and I looked and I felt all the fishes, and I saw how the
Mm.
energy came out of my heart, and then I saw how the fishes that felt my energy, like the
Oh
solar
my
energy out of my heart,
God.
and they
Yeah.
started moving, and they're like, I was like, and then all the birds too. So I like once I looked this way, and then I felt them all. I became one with them,
Wow.
and then I was just like, oh my God, that's crazy. And I'm like, that's how it works with animals. And then I looked at
Yeah.
the other way, and there was like the trees, the palm trees, and that sonar kind of went that way. And then I connected to all the birds and all
Yeah.
the insects and everything. And I was just like, wow, that's incredible. So I just thought like
Yeah.
I haven't really shared this. So I wanted to share it with you
No,
because I was like, oh, let me think
I
about some of the experiences that I had that I haven't shared.
I am so happy you shared that because that shows why some people are like really good with communicating, quote unquote, communicating with animals. You know, they probably are able to share that love, and and that's the language. Like love is like a universal language. You know, like so it makes sense that you would be sending that out of your heart chakra as opposed to maybe your sacral or something else. And another thing, like before you even said that, like I was like, should I say this? But I right now I am feeling like, I mean, and I've never taken any kind of drugs, but I'm really feeling high on like this energy. And people don't understand, like when I do these, it's not, you clearly have a lot of energy, so but it's not just you. When I've done other interviews from people who have gone to the other side or we're talking about spiritual matters, I probably look like I'm in a daze. And I just want to explain to people it's because I'm feeling that energy. Like there's an energy to this. Like I don't know what's happening right now. Like, I feel like I'm getting some tinglies in my crown chakra. My heart is just
Yeah.
open. So I am like immersed in this, like it's real. And if anyone's had those long, like late night spiritual discussions or religious discussions, you know that there's an energy that comes in and it's like part of it. Um, but I'm so glad you mentioned that about the being connected and sending that energy out because I feel like other people probably have that experience, but they might not actually be able
Oh,
to
yeah, of
see
course.
see that frequency or know
Mhm.
what's happening, but they feel it. Like I feel really like connected to nature right now.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yes,
yeah.
of course, of course.
And I would love if you
Yeah,
can give me that frequency because I've been looking for the love frequency for a while. So if you could kind of put a number to that, send it to my email. I would love to share that because everybody, I feel like everybody has to get in touch with their heart. We really have to start moving in that direction. Um, okay, so oh yeah, so there were some questions that I had. So before we go to the fifth, right? Or
yeah, yeah, yeah. Sounds good.
all right, so you said there's I love that you were mentioning the levels of heaven. Like you're saying that people who have these near-death experiences are generally kind of moving in the fourth and fifth dimensions. And fifth, I'm guessing they think, oh my God, this is heaven. And you're like, no, there's much more. You guys
Yeah, there's more.
like like you're at the bottom all excited and there's like tons of it, way to go,
Yeah, there's
a
higher
ways to
realms.
go.
Yeah, there's
And
higher realms.
this is expressed, I think, in a lot of the Abrahamic religions where they talk about the levels or the keys to the different heavens. Like a few of them do talk about multiple heavens. But with that said, is there from what your experience, is there hells? Because people who have had experiences of bad, spaces in the lower astrals, and if there is, are there multiple of those as well?
I mean, I don't believe there's a hell. For me, there is no hell. There's not like, oh, you're condemned to go to hell forever. you're gonna burn there to
Yeah.
eternity. That I never experienced that, and I don't believe in that, So
No, I'm
I
saying so
mean,
like people who have had those experiences, would you, in your assumptions, do you believe that they were stuck in the lower astrals? Like, is that what the lower astrals would appear to be to somebody, or is that, you know?
yeah, I think it could be just like, yeah, where they're at. Maybe they're going through a lot of suffering, or if they're gone through a lot of suffering, and maybe that's why they're maybe having that experience. And then it could also be that their higher self is just giving them that experience so that they can step up their game, right? So that
Mm,
they can be like, oh my God, like I gotta maybe not be such a bad person. No, I don't mean to
oh
say they were a
wow.
bad person, but maybe that I can, from now on, I want to make sure I do the right thing, and I'm a good person, because I
Yeah.
don't want to go there, right? So I feel like that's could be part of it, that people are having that experience. Is just maybe for them to be like, okay,
Yeah.
maybe I need to be better, I feel, or that's how I feel. I mean, or it could just be that they're having access to those, whatever traumas or things that they went through. But again, for me, it's like it's just levels of consciousness, and of course, like if you had a bad life, you were, I mean, I don't know, you did a lot of bad things or whatever. Maybe you could say, oh, they went to hell, but they not necessarily, because let's say even that person was still alive for you, they feel all the pain they cause among other people. They will feel that, of course, but there is no punishment or hell that they're going to go there in eternity because what they did. It'll be more like, okay, well, you'll feel bad because you did those things, but then you'll just come back, and then you're going to have to kind of relive them. Now you're going to come back and be a person that is going to be a slave, or whatever, what I'm saying, or do go through those sufferings. And so that's, for me, that's how it kind of works. So it's not like, okay, the soul is going to be condemned in hell. It's like, no, it'll come back and kind of like balance the energy, have the same experience,
Mm,
and then to a level where then it kind of like, okay, he's already kind of like had enough, like, okay, now I know that I can never, commit murder or just do anything bad, right? So because the soul have learned enough, that enough is enough. So I just think it depends where the soul is and what level they are at. So maybe they might have access to those things, but at the end, also for me, it's like all souls evolve, all souls get to ascend, and there's no exception, and it's just different experiences. The negatives are just part of the, if you once you come higher, then you're like, that's a higher perspective, right? Okay,
mm-hmm.
all along that was just to help the soul evolve, Maybe you
Yeah.
don't get it when they were down there, but the higher you go up, the higher you understand that it was all part of the soul evolution. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
that's what I
and
was
this
saying.
is this is my last question, so we can move to the next one. But I like that you were mentioning that you didn't call them superpowers, you didn't call it psychic abilities. And a lot of people who are follow NDEs, near death experiences, know that some come back with what you would call those superpowers or psychic powers, etc. But you consider them experiences. So like once you're saying that once you got into the fourth and fifth dimension or experienced the fourth and fifth dimensions, that you can come back and experience different things. So like the experience, like somebody would call it psychic, seeing the future, but you're saying that's an experience. And somebody might say that, being able to go into parallel lives or parallel jump is a power, but it's an experience. So I like that you mentioned it that way. It's a cool way of seeing it. So the fifth dimension, the fifth dimension.
Yeah, the fifth dimension. Yeah, so then, again, so that's just, so then you kind of like, okay, get a little higher now. So then you kind of, at the fourth dimension, you kind of like understood that, yeah, we're like multidimensional, and there's all these lifetimes, and then you kind of like astral travel, you're coming out of your body, you can go to different places, and within this realm or this lifetime, or other lifetimes. So, and then you're kind of polishing more the lessons and more. And then the fifth, that for me, the fifth dimension, that's when you basically are able to get to the level where you basically are becoming like an ascended master, or you're finishing the cycle, or, basically that's for me like more like when the ascended master realm, or the level when you finish the whole cycle of reincarnation, of evolution. And that's kind of like the fifth dimension. So once you graduate, like I previously had said before, that I was shown, briefly, what it would be like once we graduate from the cycle of reincarnation. So that's kind of like, so once we finish the cycle of reincarnation, or coming close to, finishing it, you start understanding more and more. But basically, once you kind of like finish it, that's kind of like when you become an ascended master. and that's when you become like a council light. Once because the council light is really you, but once you come to that level of fifth dimensional consciousness, it's you're becoming one with the council light, right? You're becoming one with the ascended masters. But again, like I said before, like like here I am because I was shown what it was. I mean, I still have, again, according to what I've been shown, I still have like 6 more lifetimes to finish the cycle. But again, I could, if I decide to have another 20, 50, 100, I could choose, but at least that's what it was shown to me. I don't know that I had 6 more. And then, but they would show me what it's like to finish the cycle. And then I mentioned to you before that they show me when, here I am becoming an ascended master and console light, whatever. And the universe, just like all in once. And then I saw three beams of light, like my parents that came, and then all of a sudden I felt like a little kid, like just finishing kindergarten because they were like really. So it's like, it's kind of crazy because you're like, okay, at the fifth dimension, you become an ascended master, but it's like, well, that's just becoming a kindergarten, graduating from kindergarten, right?
Like, woohoo, great, you're a Ascended Master next. Like,
Like graduation,
like,
get your,
mhm,
like kindergarten, like a couple of stars. But no, yeah, I mean, it's because they're higher realms than
yeah.
beyond that. But so that's kind of like the ascended master realm, and that's when you really are becoming, well, not well, yeah, one really maybe 100% or whatever, with your higher self. You see what I'm saying?
Mm,
Because at the forge, you kind of like are basically opening your eyes and you're having access to some lifetimes, and which that's kind of like where I am at. Like I'm not at the fifth dimension really. I've kind of been shown glimpses of what it's like, but that's at the ascended master level. And then again, there's been there are a couple of ascended masters as we speak right now on Earth, and throughout history and time, right? The people talking about the ascended masters, right? Jesus or Buddha, just in gurus or whatever. There's people that are at that level. They come to the point where they graduate and they still come down to Earth, and they can choose to teach and give their teachings, or they can
mm,
just keep it low key and whatever, just help the average people here and there. But at
mm.
the but at that level, then that's when you really are one with your higher self. And that was shown that once you become at that, once you reach that higher level, once you become one with your higher self, at least in the fifth dimension, because then there's higher, but in
Mm.
the fifth dimension, then that's when you start having complete access to all your lifetimes. So then it's like then you can start becoming all those, like having access and quantum jump to all of those other lifetimes. And it's really fascinating too, because like I've noticed, right, in this lifetime, that with quantum jumping, right, like as far as like, yeah, I can quantum jump to other lifetimes, or and seeing a couple of lifetimes. But then it's interesting to see, like, even items, like things like I'll mention to a few things here. But like I remember one time, and I'm sure it's happened to you or a lot of people. I don't know if like all of a sudden, like I remember I was at work, and I was work as a caregiver, helping people with learning disabilities. And I was like doing the dishes. We cook for the guys, and then I was like cleaning the dishes. And then the sponge, I remember putting it like right in front of me, and then it disappeared. And I'm like, what? What just happened?
Wow.
Yeah, it disappeared. And
Mm.
but the funny thing, right before that, I was feeding a client, an old lady, that she was like my favorite because she looked just like my one of my aunts. So
Aw.
man, so I always took care of her. I used to take care of her. I was always feeding her in her room, and I remember feeding her, and it was just me and her. The door was locked, and I was feeding her, and then all of a sudden, I felt a spirit behind me, and I'm like, oh my god, there's somebody behind me, and she saw the spirit. So I remember she looked up, and then she got scared, and she went underneath her blanket.
Aw.
And I'm like,
Aw.
no, it's okay. But I was just like, oh my God, she saw the spirit. And then right after that, it was what happened was like that I was cleaning the dishes, and
Mm.
the sponge disappeared. So I was like, wow, man. So I'm like, maybe this was the spirit that took it or whatever. But I came to realize later on that it's just, I had to see that, I had to have that experience just to know that even items or objects can quantum jump between lifetimes. You see what
Oh
I'm
yeah.
saying? So that particular sponge went into another life, to a parallel life. It quantum jumped into another
Uh-huh.
simulation, another parallel lifetime, and then all of a sudden it came back, like out of the blue. It just came
Mm-hmm.
appear again. So
Yes,
I
yes.
was just like, oh my God, this is insane. So
Well,
but it's right, the multidimensionality, the quantum jumping of not just people but items.
Yes,
So, what you
yes.
do you have an experience similar one or
Yes, I wanted to say that so you know that you're not alone because this is
right?
one of those things that a lot of
Exactly.
people experience. And like as I'm saying this, the people who are listening, go deep into your past and see if you can think of any instances like this.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
first of all, I've heard people say this. Like I watched videos where they said that there's one woman said that it goes into the fifth dimension. I mean, I guess it could be fourth or fifth, but she says that it literally is some things that are like switching to the fifth dimension and then they'll make their way back, right? But I was housing somebody, I was helping whatever, and we lived together, and there was a point where we realized all of the forks in this apartment were gone overnight, just gone. And we both were looking because I mean, at first they were like, "Oh, where are the forks?" I'm like, "I don't." I mean, we looked for. I mean, we literally just stopped and just kind of. There's those moments where like you're living regular life, you're doing regular things, and then you stop because you know something else is happening. And we both just kind of just stared at each other like, "There's nobody who came in. We know no one came in. We didn't touch the forks, and every fork in that house, and there were a lot, completely gone." And unlike other
Uh,
things that have kind of disappeared and come back, because I've had to happen with keys or this or that, whatever, those forks never showed up again. I had to buy new forks. So somebody somewhere was like, I need every fork you got.
I know it was one of your prior lives that you that came and took him. You know what I'm saying?
And the problem is that I'm such a trickster, and I think things are so funny that and I have a experience because there's an NDE guy who said he had an experience. He kind of met his soul tribe, or could have been aspects of himself, but he was definitely a kidder. Like he loved to just joke about everything. And he said he realized quickly that his soul group, he felt like they were all like the jokers in the classroom, the class clown, whatever. Because they kept playing jokes on him. He was playing jokes on them. And so part of me definitely is that jokester where I'm just like, oh God, if my aspects are coming around, I got to be careful because they're going to play every kind of trick you can think of. Every kind of trick.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool.
Exactly. Yeah. 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 No, and it's funny thing
Okay.
because I was talking again to my girl Belinda about all this, and then I was telling her because I remember in some of my lifetimes I have it's funny because I've seen some of my lifetime that I was like a banker, that I own banks, and and
Mm,
then in Sweden and here in the US it was always like a banker and I have banks. I had and it's funny because I have vaults. I mean I own banks, so I have vaults full of gold and all this stuff, whatever.
wow.
But the funny thing is like we have been inside two vaults. We went to Sweden this year for her birthday, and then we went to a gym that like we ended up going to a gym we were there for 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden, as we're working out, I'm like, I'll be right back. I gotta go use the bathroom. And as I'm walking, I'm looking for the bathroom, and I open this door, which I'm like, stay over here. It's the vault. It's a vault to get into the
Wow. Is it a bank?